Hey there, bitches. Welcome back to And World Peace. I am your host, Maggie Gehlsen-Burnett. On today's episode, I am so excited about our guest. It is my first official guest on the show who lives in the same city as I do. So if you've been living under a fucking rock, I live in Peoria, Illinois. I moved here in December of 2021 with my husband, who was born and raised here. And, full disclosure, I'm pretty honest about this. Peoria and I did not have a good start, man. We had a real rough go of it when I first moved here. And I think in a lot of ways that has to do with the fact that during the time that we moved here, I was still pretty resentful and pretty unappreciative, I guess, of my own hometown. Peoria is an interesting place because even though it's one of the larger cities in the state of Illinois, everybody still seems to know everyone. So it has a very small town vibe and a small town feel to it. And I think that really kind of irked me when I first got here because it felt to me a lot like high school, where everybody knew what the fuck I was doing and they knew who I made out with the weekend before at some barn party. So I think that really drove me nuts in a way. But I've really come to love and appreciate so many things about living here. And I actually spent a lot of my formative years in Peoria. My baton coach growing up still lives here and lived here then. So I remember making weekend trips to Peoria all the time when I was a kid. So it definitely has a special place for me. And I've learned to really grow in my relationship with this place and not hate it so much. And it's certainly not my own hometown, although I have learned to love and appreciate certain things about my own hometown as well. And, that's on growth, baby. So anyway, before we get into introducing today's guest, a couple of housekeeping items. You know the drill here. The first is that And World Peace is on Patreon. It's patreon.com/andworldpeace. This is how you can support the show on a monthly basis and get access to exclusive content in the process. The second way you can support the show is through Spotify listener support. This is done directly through Spotify if that is your listening avenue of choice. Otherwise, you don't have to support the show at all, really. You're supporting just by listening, and I'm really fucking glad you're here. So thanks so much. So let's talk about our guest today. Our guest today is Michy Maloof. She's an angel. But Michy is, first and foremost, she's a Peoria entrepreneur with a passion for people. Whether it's providing bootcamp style fitness classes or helping you find your dream home, she is service oriented through and through, and you will get an exact glimpse of that on this show. Michy opened Sculpt Mode Fitness in 2018 with the goal of providing men and women access to the best functional bootcamp fitness classes in the area. Sculpt Mode Fitness started as a 6-week weight loss program and has evolved into a highly respected boutique gym, having successfully reached, transformed, and motivated hundreds of men and women in central Illinois. And the coolest part is that they are currently available for franchise opportunities. So should you happen to want to franchise Sculpt Mode, you can do that. In 2021, Michy expanded her professional credentials by becoming a licensed real estate broker with her family business, Maloof Realty. She has preached for years to women to not only dream big, but to also do the work it takes to make those dreams a reality. And you definitely will listen to her talk about that on today's episode. Michy hopes to be an encouragement to all women to live by example and to show women that they never have to limit themselves to fit into just one box, and that you can create as many boxes as you want for yourself. It was an absolute delight talking with Michy. Michy was kind of one of the first people who, when I met her and when I started just kind of communicating with her, she made me feel like maybe this was a place I could see myself living long term, and that maybe there were people like me, like-minded individuals like me who lived here, and I'm just so fortunate to know her, and you are fortunate to get to listen to her. She's just an absolute delight. So anyway, without further ado, let's welcome Michy to the show. So you're actually my first guest from Peoria to be on the show. So I'm really excited about that part. But I think a good place to start is with a question that I ask every single person who comes on the show. And this question is basically related to my own experience with pageantry, and kind of how right when I got done doing pageantry, I sort of call it what will be known as the Great Undoing. And it was just kind of a time in my life where like everything fell apart, shit totally hit the fan. And it was the best. Like I look back now and I'm like, that was the best part of my life because it just really forced me into becoming who I am now. So, a question I ask every guest that comes on this show is tell me about your undoing, your unbecoming,
Oh,
your all of the things, and sort of just like that unlearning that every woman has to do, but specifically what yours looked like and maybe when that was.
you know, I would say instead of an unlearning, really the situations I've had so many situations where I've had to pivot. So
Mm,
where I hold on to one thing as truth, right? And I think, okay, I have this control over this aspect of my business, but then the world happens, life happens, things happen, and I have to undo what I previously thought my life was going to look like and
mm,
my business was going to look like, and have to pivot and adjust and learn from all of that. So, I mean, literally, that's happened so many times in my life, in my experiences.
that's the
I would say,
commonality with everybody is they're like, which one do you want?
which one do you want? Because there's so many things that happened at the beginning of my business. But
Yeah.
really, the biggest undoing right now is what's happening currently in my life. And you know, it's taken Sculpt Mode 6 years to get to where we are today in our current location. And I've had a lot of pivoting throughout all of that process. But truthfully, right now, I'm realizing that throughout those 6 years and through COVID, I've just been in fight or flight mode.
Mm,
And right now, I am unlearning how to operate a business outside of fight or flight, if that
mm-hmm.
makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I'm learning a lot about who I am personally, who I am as not just a business owner, but who I am as a person, so I can adjust and redirect and align with future opportunities and multiple streams of income, different things like that, and like align with who I am in that respect. So I guess I would say, you know, the unlearning is coming from the years of leading my business in, I guess, not just fight or flight, but it's also growing up as a people pleaser.
Yeah.
I have operated in a way that is literally like I will do every aspect of my business and I won't ask for any help. I won't ask for my coaches even to do the little tasks for me because I know how to do it and I'm going to control in that way. So I'm unlearning all of those things, product of, my childhood and having these ambitions, but learning that I can't grow if I don't delegate. You know
Yeah.
what I
Mm,
mean? I can't grow if I'm constantly trying to please others and I'm not looking at what is truly aligned with who I am.
I
So
love
that's a super broad, vague explanation of
No,
what
that's
I'm going
great.
through right now,
I
but
love
just a lot
it.
of healing, a lot of healing, a lot of personal growth is happening for
Mm,
me right
yeah.
now.
Yeah. You're kind of in it in the thick of it.
I am.
I that's sort of a common theme amongst everybody that I interview is, there's all of these different moments of growth in our lives and these really monumental things that happen to us that force
Mhm.
us essentially, for lack of a better term, into becoming who we are now and where we are at this place in our lives. But I think the one commonality amongst all of the women I've talked to is they're like, yeah, but I'm in it again. Like I'm doing it all again. I'm sort of in the midst of this like kind of sticky season where I'm growing and learning and I'm trying to really undo all of the excess stuff that I picked up along the way in the healing journey. So
Oh yeah.
so I love that you're also in that. So that's great. So
Oh,
for those who don't know you and for those especially who are not listening from Peoria or people who are, not from Peoria, give us kind of the rundown of the inception of Sculpt Mode, how you even got to where you are now, and where this idea came from for your business when, from my understanding, I, have not lived in Peoria for that long, but from when we've talked before and from what I know about your business, you started it in a time when that wasn't really like a super common thing in Peoria. Like it was sort of one of the first really established fitness organizations that is in the city. So I want to know what that was like and how the inception of this business came to be.
Yeah. So I started it when I was 27 years old. I was working full time in marketing and I had a great job, but I was really plateauing in my job. And I thought, I have this passion for fitness. It's something that I've always liked to do. And I got into it because I guess the real story is that I hurt myself. I was a competitive dancer. I hurt myself, injured my low back very badly when I think I was 17 or 18.
Wow.
And uh, I went to a chiropractor and he told me that I need to just get used to walking on a treadmill for the rest of my life. I'll never lift heavy weights. I won't have a baby vaginally. Like he put so
Oh
much fear
my
into me at such a young age. And I thought, I'm not going to live in this fear. I don't want to take his word as truth. So I kind of became my own advocate. I researched, I looked up how to strengthen your back, and it's really to strengthen your core and to strengthen your whole cylinder. And so, being from a dance background, I found Pilates. So, as you know,
God.
Pilates is so core focused, but it's focusing on breath work and um, posture and everything I've grown up loving and doing. And I realized I started to heal my low back by strengthening my core and st- adding a little bit of Pilates and strength and bar fitness into the mix. So I became an instructor in college. And I thought it was going to be extra beer money. And you know what I mean? It was like something I enjoyed doing, but I was like, it doesn't mean much. I'm just gonna have a good time. But then I
Becomes your whole
realized,
life.
well, seriously, because my whole life. But it was a beautiful thing because what I started to realize in my classes that were women starting to tell me that their shoulder pinches were going away, that their core felt stronger, that they could lift their grandkids up, little things like that that started to play into my mind. And I just thought, this is so rewarding, being able to help myself, but then not only that, but I'm able to instill this knowledge into other people. So I just loved it. So when I came home and I started my marketing career, I continued to teach bar on the side. And
Mm.
at the time, there were big box gyms, maybe three big box gyms in Peoria and one yoga studio where I was teaching at. I wanted to get more classes. I wanted to help people one on one a little bit more. So those women that were in my classes, they wanted me to come to their homes and offer private Pilates classes. And so I did. I brought my yoga mat, I brought my weights and my bands, and it was kind of like a private luxury service. So
Yeah.
women amongst themselves, they would talk about it, they would refer me, and I got so busy that I was able to replace my full time income. And I
Wow.
said, you know what? If I'm not going to do it now, I'm not going to do it ever. Right? When I, have a husband, family, kid, all the things that you
Yeah.
tell yourself. So I jumped and I thought, you know, as long as I maintain my client base and maybe add a little bit more, I will be rocking and rolling. Well, things happen, things change, and clients start to come and go, and bills are still needing to be paid. And so I spoke with of one of my clients, and she said, "Hey, I have 1,500 square feet next to my chiropractic office. Would you want to teach group fitness there and maybe do Pilates and bar and do that there?" And I said, "I don't have the money, but I'm going to figure it out." And we got really creative in how I was going to pay for this space. I mean, I just did not know what I was doing, but I jumped, right? Because I thought, again, you got to do what you love. And this is what I loved. So I started teaching group fitness in a little 1,500 square foot space. I I maxed out my credit cards to pay for the bar and the mirrors and the shoddy little things that I could hang over the mirror or the windows so that the light didn't come through. Like it wasn't the cutest, but I made it homey and
Yeah.
it was a beautiful space and it's so special in my heart. But yeah, I had another instructor that I had two instructors at the time that I hired on. And at that time, I was so worried about making money that I was teaching 18 classes a week.
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
rail thin. I was afraid to do my own workouts, myself, because I was afraid that if I get injured, there my business would go. So I was operating in a lot of fear when I first opened, which most people do when they first open something like that because it's all on you. Um,
Right.
and then what happened next is another yoga studio popped up that had money behind it, and they had the hot instructors. They offered hot yoga, this and that, and I was just in my little studio doing what I could. I had very loyal clients, but not only that, competition popped up, but my rent was actually going to go up that summer. So what happened was is I thought, okay, I either have to figure this out or I have to shut my doors or I have to get really creative. So I got creative. I hired a fantastic coach who focused on strength training, and she was a bodybuilder and she was a personal trainer in the area, and her and I partnered up and I said, listen, I want to offer a 6 week program, more of a strength based program, maybe more of like a boot camp style where you have fun and we focus on nutrition and we focus on getting into that, summer physique that everybody. So I thought, okay, we're going to do a 6 week program. And one of my clients at the time, she owned a indoor baseball facility, so 54,000 square feet of space,
Wow.
beautiful. And I said, hey, can we use your space and provide a 6 week program? And we're going to show up 3 days a week and hopefully we get some people and blah, blah, blah. So it went really well the first 6 weeks. And then the same people asked, okay, can I come back another 6 weeks? Can we do it again? This was so much fun. And so I was like, shit, why not? I mean, let's do it again. It was
Yeah.
a program. But then what happened is we blew up. So these classes that we were offering inside this facility were more strength based. Some of them were HIIT workouts, which were we were incorporating more of that. So we had dumbbells, we had kettlebells, we had a bit more strength stuff, and nothing around Peoria had anything like that. It was all Les Mills classes, and I'm not knocking Les Mills classes, but
Totally. Yeah.
this was something completely different. It had the cool vibe of showing up into a baseball field and working out on turf and feeling like a badass. We got
Yeah.
boxes. So it blew up to the point where we had at one point 140 people in a class. I had to hire on so many coaches. We had to share. There was like five of us in one class trying to make sure everyone's doing things the right way. It blew up to the point where I was like, what in the world is this? So we pivoted and we shifted into, I closed my 1,500 square foot space and we went full time in this indoor baseball field for 2 years. And we went from a 6 week program to a full blown membership. And now we're rocking and rolling, and we're offering classes that are not just focused on HIIT workouts. We actually don't do a lot of that anymore. We've pivoted into more strength based classes where we're still called a boot camp, so Sculpt Mode Boot Camp, but we pivoted into an empowering place where you don't feel scared to lift a barbell, and you have coaches there wanting to support you and make sure you're doing your form is on point before you add heavier weight. And so we focus on functional fitness now, and we also incorporate, still with my love of Pilates, we do that every Sunday. We do Pilates and yoga on Sundays so our members can have a little bit of both. And we have 8 coaches now that train our members, and then we have incredible yoga instructors and Pilates, and so I'm just super blessed to be where we are today. But it took a lot of time and a lot of pivoting, and um, you know, that's the long story. But there's so many things along the way that brought us to where we are today. But
Oh,
um,
that is
and
just
and we
amazing.
are and now we're in a 3,000 square foot space. We got investors in at the height of COVID, and so we are now a franchise. And these investors purchased the first franchise in Peoria, which is so cool.
Yeah.
We're so happy about that, and we're just rocking and rolling in our space. We love it.
Oh, that is so fucking cool. Like, I just love that. I love hearing stories about just badass women who are like building something from nothing. Like that has been the again the common theme amongst every single person I've talked to is I Ty had asked me like a couple of weeks ago, I shared this on the last episode that he asked me, so what is this is like such a like boy question to ask, first of all, but because like women who listen to podcasts, I think know that this is like we're not necessarily looking for just one thing when we're listening to a podcast. Like we're sort of just looking for whatever, is working for us in the moment. And so he, of course, is like, with his man brain, asks me, so what's like the vibe of the guest that you're having on the show? And I'm like, well, I don't know, just like badass people. Like what do you want me to say here? And and then I put this together that the commonality between every single person I've interviewed is that every person so far is a small business owner.
Okay.
So that was one thing that I was like, oh my gosh, okay, like I guess that there is kind of a general sort of theme. Um, but I just love that. So it's been such a gratifying experience to hear everybody's stories of like how they built everything that they have. And I think it's just so amazing. So I want to ask, you kind of alluded to this when you talked about how you had the smaller space and you were doing more like bar and Pilates and stuff like that when you first started, and then this other studio pops up, and it immediately triggered this question in my brain of like, what are your thoughts on like, do you operate now from a place of there's enough for everybody, there's enough to go around, or are you more like logical thinking in your background of like, these are the numbers, this is how many people live here, this is like, like I would love to know your thought on that, just especially too because you also are in real estate, which we will touch on in a moment. But so you're definitely more in like another sort of like very cut and dry, like logical, field. So I would love to know your thoughts on that kind of idea.
So that's a really good question. So at the beginning, like I said, that there was one yoga studio, and then the rest were big box gyms. So in
Mhm.
my mind, another gym popping up when they have investors backing them, they have like good, a great location. That to me was like a nail in my coffin. I was like, they're going to take over, right? And so in my mind, I was like, this, we're done. And
Yeah.
like I said, I was operating out of fear and scarcity,
Yeah.
right? And so now I'm seeing that because I've been able to help so many people, and I've been able to align a lot better with, wait, we have a great product. This is who we are. We have coaches that are the best in the business. This is what we have. We are different than the others. And
Yeah.
instead of operating out of fear, if someone doesn't align with us, it doesn't hurt my feelings. If someone doesn't comes to class and they're like, this isn't for me, because fitness, it depends. It changes for everybody. It's your goals change. After you have a baby, things change. After you reach a certain age, your hormones need a certain type of movement. Like
Yeah.
fitness, fitness is so universal. Everyone needs to move, but it's instead of operating out of fear and competition, I do not operate out of that anymore. There are places that I align with, and I'll even say, go over here, go over to this place because they offer this or that.
Mhm.
uh, and there are places that I won't recommend because I know how they operate and I won't talk badly about them, but I'm not going to refer them, right?
Sure, of
So
course. Yeah.
yeah, so I to answer your question, I used to operate like that, and I
Yeah.
was living fight or flight, and I wasn't enjoying a day. I was not
Mhm.
happy. I was really I was miserable every day, but I tried to tell myself that this was what I loved doing, and I almost ran myself into exhaustion,
Right.
and almost started to resent what I was doing because of how I was operating. So something had to change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And taking away that competition of, our the way we are is going to come through in our classes and how we show up in social media, how you show up when you come into our door, how you
Mhm.
meet with us, who we are. And if that doesn't align with you, then it doesn't align with us.
Yeah,
And
sure.
and and you need to find where you feel welcome. And we do our best to make everyone feel welcome. But again, fitness, it's all
Yeah.
over the place. I even go through seasons where I'm like, yes, I want to lift, I want to lift, I want to lift, I want to go heavy. And then there are some seasons, especially in the winter, or truly like getting closer to my period where I'm just like, I am
Yeah.
not, I don't have the energy. I do my yoga, I do Pilates, I do my own thing. So
Yeah, of course.
that's just how it is.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you again, you've touched on this a couple of times. I would love to know what are some of the things that you have been implementing and have been doing as of late to get yourself out of the fight or flight mode, that you were kind of stuck in for those first few years of having your business.
Yeah.
And I'm sure COVID probably just made that 10 times worse, but I would love to know, just like from a very practical standpoint, how you as a business owner have really worked to take yourself and your body out of this like chronic state of stress.
Mm. Well, it happened really truly. I think the start of it happened right after COVID because the world stopped, right? And I couldn't push the way that I was used to pushing. And
Mhm.
we had to go on Zoom and do Zoom workouts. And I had to slow down and realize, okay, what is this business going to look like? How am I operating in this business? If I operate right now out of fear and I tell everyone that they could have free memberships, but you can do free Zoom workouts and blah, 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 like a lot of people were doing, they were offering free stuff. I was just going to be that people pleaser again,
Yeah.
and I wasn't going to be able to survive COVID. So being able to structure our business in a way that we were just in the business of wanting to help you. We really were. And we dropped our membership rates super low, but they still paid something. I was
Right.
able to cover my instructors, but we were still able to operate. But I realized I had to slow down and I had to look at my life and say, what do I want out of life? And, it also didn't help that I went through a very traumatic breakup at the height of COVID as well. And so I really had to adjust and say, okay, I physically I can't show up at 100% right now. My business is shut down. We can't show up at 100% right now. How can I best operate at 60% but still have my sanity?
Wow.
So COVID really made me slow down, but also therapy has been huge for me, and I started therapy in 2020, and then I stopped for like a year or two, and then I went back recently and I found a therapist that just fully aligns with me, and we we are just we are in sync. It's when you find a therapist that really helps you and gets you
It's
and
the
doesn't hate
best.
you. It's the
Yes.
best.
Yeah,
So,
I cannot agree more. My sister is a therapist, and I often say, like, I wonder if the most gratifying part of being a therapist is like watching your client sort of come to these light bulb moments, or like, these conclusions in front of your eyes. And I'm sure I should ask you that sometime, if that's like, part of what makes being a therapist so great. But it truly is so life-changing when you find one that just works with your values and your ethos and, all those things. So I
yeah.
love that.
Right. Well, she's allowing me to see that the way I've been operating is not just fight or flight, but it's based out of my childhood stuff, right? That like
Mhm.
we were
Mhm.
people pleasers from childhood, and you grow up as a people pleaser, and you lose yourself. And you don't want
Yeah.
to lose yourself when you own a business and run a business, because then if
Yeah.
you're operating off of, oh my gosh, what do you want? Okay, you want this, I'm gonna make sure you have this, but then it's not aligned with, you know,
Yeah.
what you want exactly. So you can't say yes to everyone. You're not going to make everybody happy all the time, but you have to you have to go to bed at the end of the day, and with yourself, and you have to be proud of what you put out there. And I've just realized, like, shoot, you just gotta sometimes you gotta slow down to really align with what you want to do
Yeah.
in your and I thought the opposite for so many years, like
Of
never slow
course. Yeah.
down, always have your laptop open even when you're decompressing at night, like that is how
Yeah.
you show up as a business owner. Like, no,
Yeah, absolutely. And
gotta have balance.
that's a common theme too amongst women just generally, right? Is that like we're sort of taught from jump that, if we aren't constantly on the move or constantly growing or shifting or changing or pleasing people or helping people or whatever in kind of that nurturing caretaker role, then we are literally useless. And
Yeah,
that is, I know for definitely for myself, but for so many people, including some of the ones that have been on this show, that has been a huge kind of just total mind fuck that they have to like overcome in adulthood, is this concept of, okay, I don't have to please everyone. I don't have to take care of everyone. I can actually take care of me first. It's safe to do those things for myself first and then go about my business or my job or my life or whatever. So I love that you touch on that. I want to ask you about a time in your life, and I want to kind of like switch gears in this way. And maybe it's not a time in your life, but it's just kind of a general question I have. But when you said your childhood, this made me think of it. So for the people who are not from Peoria who are listening, I'm just going to go ahead and say this broadly, that Michy is from a very like I would call a well-known family in the Peoria area. And so I want to know what that has been like just growing up in, I don't know if it's like the spotlight or what you would refer to it as, but just sort of like having this attention on you maybe from a young age, or just kind of being a part of the community in such an ingrained way from get-go. Like I would love to know how that impacted you in positive ways, in negative ways, in neutral ways, whatever. But I can't help but wonder if that hasn't had some kind of effect on you becoming a business owner and doing all of the things that you're doing now.
yeah. So my grandpa was the mayor, and he um, started a real estate company in the 60s, and it's grown to be one of the largest in central Illinois. He was such a great man, and the way he did business um, was so different than anybody else. He operated like how I wish to operate in my business. He
Yeah.
operated based off of loving people and loving his community and wanting to help. And so I learned a lot of that growing up. And but I wanted to make my own way. I never wanted to. I was my last name is well known because of the real estate company around here, but I still wanted. I had my own passions. I had my own dreams, and um, you know, I didn't ask for any financial help, any kind of things. Like it was all me.
Yeah.
It was all, yeah, it was me and my team. I never like to say that,
Yeah.
but it really truly, I'm very proud to say that I wanted to always create my own way, and I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
But growing up with my grandpa, it was a lot of events, a lot of things that I would go to with him and with my family, and it was very much like, this is, you have to put on, be happy, smile, be kind to everyone.
Pageant.
All pageantry, yes, pageantry, kind of, yeah. It was kind of like that, and so kept that with me. Like, I want to make sure everyone else is always okay by me being
Mm,
happy and smiley and good. Um,
yeah.
and that played a part in my psyche, growing up. And I don't want to fail because I don't want to show that anyone in my family can fail because my grandpa was so successful and in what
Totally.
he did. And so there was a lot of pressure on me to, I put that on myself, not
Yeah,
other, no one put that on me. I did that to
totally.
myself and I still do. And, and I don't like to fail. I don't like to not portray myself as having it all together. And that's something I'm working on in 2024. Truthfully, like I'm working and with my therapist too. It's like being okay with putting even creative content out there that isn't fully polished. Like, what
Yeah,
is that? But
totally.
now, guess what? Everyone is gravitating towards right now is the unpolished because
Yeah.
we're all unpolished. Truthfully, no one looks perfect. No one's perfect. So finding that realization and trying to let those walls down has definitely impacted my life up to this point for sure.
Absolutely.
But again, I'm so proud of what he's accomplished. And now that I'm in real estate, I pushed that off for so long too because I said I would never do real estate because I want to create my own way. And then turns out I flip and love it. I freaking
Yeah.
love real estate and I get to do both. And I get to, be a part of my family business, which I thought I
Awesome.
was pushing away as well because I was like,
Yeah.
I want to create my own thing. I want to do I'm doing I'm stubborn. Um, but it's a real blessing to be able to do both and
Yeah.
to be able to work in my family business and to see my grandpa's photos up on the walls and it's just
Yeah.
there's something sweet about it. So,
That's
um,
awesome. Oh, I love
it-
that. That's
yeah,
like that's super helpful context, I think, for someone like me, especially who, I moved here a couple of years ago, but I'm not fluent in, the community and I don't know, a ton about, families in Peoria and stuff like that. So I think that that's just helpful context for me. But I love that you are kind of focusing on like letting things just kind of fall into place the way that they should, the way that they're meant to, versus like I think especially as people pleasers and again as women, like we tend to just sort of we always want things to be the way that we have wanted them and we've planned them out. And I do this all the time where I'm like, but no, it was supposed to be this way. And then something else happens that's even better and greater than I could have ever imagined. And I'm like, okay, like I understand why that thing didn't work out or I was led to this thing through that person or whatever. It's always so humbling and fascinating, I think, to like look back on those moments and be like, okay, like that was all for something.
it's all
So,
yeah.
um, I want to know, just this was kind of a good segue anyway. What ultimately was the moment that you were like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get into real estate. I'm going to join the family biz. I'm going to, just kind of throw my hat in and do it. And the, kind of second part to this question is if you notice any crossovers between, working in real estate and also working in the fitness industry, because I have to imagine in my brain, like, I'm like, there has to be some parallels here. Like, there's got to be crossover between the two industries. And just like, yeah, I would love to know about all of that.
Yeah. Well, the crossover is truly just wanting to help people, but
Mm,
also, in today's day and age, even you have to make multiple streams of income, right? But
right.
the reason I actually got into real estate again was it started off in fear. I made this decision based out of fear because I didn't know what the future of my gym was going to be. And I'll be completely honest. I
Mm,
said, while we're shut down, I'm just going to get my certification online or
yeah.
take my class online because what else am I going to do?
Yeah,
And I was like, may as
totally.
well learn and figure out if this is what I want to do. And,
Yeah.
I was just operating out of scarcity,
Mm,
but it ended up being a blessing in disguise because everything I was reading and learning about, I thought, this could be a great way to be able to help my client base in a different way and to be able to use my brain in a different way. Like
Yeah.
I've been doing fitness for at this point for almost 14 years, and I thought, man, what a fun change up too. And during COVID, I that's when I got my when I took the class online. And then um yeah, so being able to help buyers, to help sellers in this market, it people have a lot of people in Peoria have taken my class because I've been in fitness for so long. So
Yeah.
they trust me in their area of fitness. They trust me as someone who cares for them, and I truly do because that's how I operate. Um, and so I've had some members ask me to represent them as their agent because they
Yeah.
trust me and they want to see me do well. And but I've also noticed how kind of it's hard to rebrand yourself when you've been one thing in the area for so long. I will be honest. So it's hard to kind of show people that you can do both, and that there's so many people that ask me all the time, "Oh, you're going to be too busy to be my agent because you're running a business." And I say, "Well, we have systems in place. I now
Yeah.
coaches that I'm not constantly teaching every single class. So it's a lot of educating people
Mm-hmm.
who want to hire me, and they think you're too busy or you're doing too many things. Well, no,
Yeah.
that's not the case. So it has its pros and cons, but it's almost like rebranding yourself entirely when you're doing two different things, because people want to they see you and they want to put you in a niche, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instantly. And
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm the fitness girl, right? So they've
Right.
niched me already. And so how do I get out of that niche and show people that I have multiple ways that I can help and provide service,
Yeah.
and um and I'm good at it. So that's fine to say. I'm
Yeah.
learning from my therapist that, the
Absolutely.
therapist says you can say that if you're good at something, and
Of
you don't just
course.
have to be humble all the time. And
Yes.
I'm not.
I love that. Oh my God. Yes. Women need to brag more. 100%.
And honestly,
Um,
like I'm working on that too. Just
yeah.
yeah. But anyways, I love being able to help people in that way because it's one of the biggest purchases you'll ever make in your whole life, and navigating that and making sure that you're keeping other agents in line and and
Yeah,
accountable as
totally.
well has been an interesting part of the job. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a new challenge that's part of who I am. I just love to take a challenge, and maybe there's a crazy part of my brain that just doesn't work, or maybe I don't know, like I operate on fear really well, but I also like
Yeah, totally.
really can't, I don't know. I just,
Yeah.
for some reason, if there's like a new challenge, I'm just so excited, like a calculated risk. I'm excited to jump.
Absolutely.
And uh and that's kind of what you got to have in you if you're going to stay for the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you're going to be a business owner, I think that's, yeah, being very comfortable with risk, I think is something that I had an old boss that told me, she was like, I'm almost too comfortable with risk. And I think that that is what makes me a good business owner. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Interesting point.
So
Yeah, because
yeah,
things are constantly changing.
yeah,
Constantly.
exactly. And
So
you're constantly having to, like, to your point, sort of, rebrand, pivot, do all of these things to make it work, because it's your, at the end of the day, your livelihood and your,
yeah.
a thing that you've put blood, sweat, and tears into. So I you mentioned this a couple of times, and I don't want to miss an opportunity to ask this question. So you talk about how you've operated from fear in the past, and this kind of like scarcity mindset. What was the shift that allowed you to sort of step more into this place of abundance and this place of being like, okay, it's safe to do this thing, and it's safe to move this way, and safe to take time off and rest, and all the things. I want to know if there was like, I'm sure it was a multitude of things over the course of time, but I can't help but wonder if there was like something specific that really allowed you to move from that scarcity mindset into a different place?
Well, it was getting when I was talking about how it was getting to the point where I was teaching 18 classes a week, I was starting to resent what I loved so much, and I wasn't enjoying it myself. I knew something had to change. And so um, when I think I first started to operate outside of that scarcity mindset was when I started the boot camp and I hired my first coach.
Mm,
And I realized because we were growing so much, I needed to hire more people. And I had no other option than to hire more people, but it was making sense financially. And so when I started to hire more coaches, I started to believe and understand how delegating is going to make me enjoy what I do again and
mm,
love what I do again, because I don't feel like I have to do every single aspect of the business. I was doing 80% of it at the time,
yeah.
but allowing other coaches and training other coaches to teach these classes when I'm not there, it was like a breath of fresh air. And I'm like, okay, I like this. I don't
Mhm.
like to give up full control because I'm still that person. Um, but when I started to give up a little bit more, I started to get a little bit more of myself back and a little bit more of my time back,
Mm,
and I wasn't running myself into the ground.
yeah.
So I think when I started to when I started to see how those people were flooding into our boot camp, I started to really realize that I had something special.
Yeah.
And before, I think I was operating because I thought there was something great and I thought we had something awesome. But when I didn't realize I was operating out of fear, because when that other studio popped up, I thought for sure that was going to be it.
Mm,
And so when I started to align with what I really started to enjoy and do, and everyone was also loving it, and I had coaches being able to help me, I I started to I started to get that fire back again
mm,
that I was
mhm.
losing when I was trying to do it all myself.
Just
You
burnt
can't.
out. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
just
totally.
can't. Yeah.
Mhm. I love that.
There's
Yeah.
no way to grow if you don't have help. And I wouldn't be
Mm,
where I am today without my incredible team of coaches. They are they are literal godsends. Every
yeah.
single one of them. They also truly care about every person that walks through the door. And I couldn't be happier about the team that I have.
Yeah.
It's
Sort of
incredible.
that aspect of allowing yourself to give up control in some
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
afforded you the option to sort of step into this place of less scarcity. And I love that because it seems, and I think we're taught that it's the opposite, right? That like if you give up control, if you ask for help, if you delegate all the things, then you will fail, or you will, or
Yeah.
there will not be
Yeah.
enough, or whatever. Yeah, and I love that you kind of did the
Mhm.
opposite of what you had been told essentially your whole life, which is just amazing to me. I love
Mhm.
that. Okay, amazing. I just love all of this. I want to ask you maybe one or two more kind of wrap up questions, and then I want to get into our world peace section. So all of this to say, I would love to know, and I'm sure that people in Peoria would love to know, and anybody who's going to be listening to this, now what? Like, what do you see the vision of Sculpt Mode being? Maybe even your vision for yourself in real estate. Like, what does the next 5 years look like in an ideal, and then in a perfect world, for your business? I would
Mhm.
love to know what that looks like for you.
Well, so that is a really good question, and I'm going to be the worst guest because right now I'm in a place of really realignment,
Yeah,
and I'm letting those answers come to me. So I don't know yet. But what
love
we
it.
did in 2021 with Sculpt Mode is that I franchised for a reason.
Yeah,
So I am kind of letting this kind of happen organically. I'm trying to see, is the future to open up another brick and mortar? Do we go virtual with apps? Do we do online programs? What do the people want? But also, what am I aligning with right now?
yeah,
And I know there's more. but the direction of either brick and mortar or online, I'm leaning more towards one than the other. But I am just in alignment right now. I'm trying to figure out what that is for
Mm,
us.
I
And
love
that
that.
takes time. And right now I'm not at that point where I know yet. Because
Yeah, that's
because right now,
perfect.
exactly, we're rocking and rolling
I
in
love
our
it.
space right now in Peoria. But I know that there's a need and there's someone out there that has the passion that I have, that wants to run a sculpt mode. If they want to run the sculpt mode, I will teach them how to do it. I will do all the things.
Yeah.
I just, I personally, I know that there's growth and there's someone that wants to do that, but I don't know where or who or just yet. But
Oh,
I structured it like that for a reason. So
yeah,
whatever, whoever,
exactly.
and whenever that happens, great.
Amazing.
But I'm not really in that, like, I'm not like a Barry's boot camp where it's like we must open up in every big. I'm not that way just yet. So maybe to
Yeah.
those listening, they might think that I'm not as much of a go-getter, but I don't. This is such a special gym, and what we've built in the programming also is so special. Like, this is not going to be in every single city necessarily. Um,
Yeah.
it's for the right people and the right. It's in the right situation. So if that
Yeah.
if anyone listening is that person, maybe that's great. But
Yeah.
um,
Hit up
and then
Michy franchise. I
hey,
love it.
shameless plug. But okay. And
It's
then with
perfect.
real estate, I just want to keep growing and
Yeah.
just keep growing. That's it.
Amazing.
Right now, I'm not a part of a team. I'm just myself at Jim Wolf Realtor, and I love it. And I don't know if a team is in the future for me or not, but I love operating out of teams, absolutely. So as you know, with Sculpt Mode, I have an amazing crew, and I think there's something special even with real estate teams where you have goals and you have people you work alongside and you educate. And
Yeah.
so who knows, maybe that in the future. But right now, again, Maggie, I'm in realignment mode.
I
Like, you
love
caught
it.
me in a time where I am like, what does the universe want from me?
But you talk about so like living so much in your truth of everything that you just said, in all of the questions I asked you, you were talking about, you know, this coming out of this fight or flight state, coming out of a fear-based mindset of building your business and all of those things. And it's like now you are the shining example of everything you just said, which is that you're just letting these things come to you and letting it go from there, which is so lovely and so beautiful. And I think there's something to learn in that for everybody in every phase of life. So I think that's just amazing. And I love it. I'm like, I love the periods of time where I can catch people in a state of growth or transformation or anything like that. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Like, I'm like, yes, like it's it's so much more interesting to me to catch somebody there than when things are all shiny and bright and pristine and perfect and and like they've done all the things and it's all behind them. It's like it's so much more interesting and cool and relatable to catch you in a moment where you're sort of redefining yourself. And I think that's
Yeah.
just so amazing. So
Well, you can't rush these things. You can't rush
yeah.
something that, when you're in a phase of growth and learning and getting to know yourself better, you just have to
Mhm.
sometimes just sit back and listen instead of trying to push, 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 push.
Yes.
And that's what
Yes.
I've been learning just through growth, through just
Hmm.
reading, just
Yeah.
I'm soaking up everything I possibly can so that I can enjoy life, but also still be an entrepreneur and still be but the person that I want to be, but not
Yeah, of
running myself into the
course.
ground, because there's that balance that you don't have when you're first starting a business. Nobody
Yeah.
does. There's no
Hmm.
balance when you first start. I don't care who you talk to. There's no,
Yeah,
you are,
exactly.
so, I can finally sit back and say, okay, what's the next move? What's the next step? And I'm
Mm,
not pushing it. I am literally just letting God, the universe,
yeah.
tell me what's next, and I'm
Yes,
just
I
gonna be
love
like,
it.
okay, yes, that's what I do. That's what I'm gonna do. When it feels right, I'm gonna go. But right
Amazing. That
Chilling.
is just lovely. I love it.
I,
Okay, I want to get into World War or World Peace because I've got some good ones for you.
yes,
So,
ma'am.
if for those listening, this is the section of the show where it's meant to be fun, it's meant to be funny, it's meant to be lighthearted. I talk to a lot of women who talk about some heavy shit on this show. So this is meant to be the like fun little section that we, sort of wrap up with. So World War, World Peace is a section of the show where, from my pageantry background, every woman would answer on stage questions with the very stereotypical world peace answer. So my rebuttal to that was creating a section that also includes World War. So these are things that are applicable to the person I'm interviewing, their, their niche, their industry, whatever. And so, yeah, we're going to get into it. Okay. So the first thing I have on my list, there has been a craze in the last, I don't even know, 2 to 5 years, maybe, of Instagram dietitians. And they like pop up every, listeners can't see what I'm seeing right now, but they're everywhere and they're all like they're all talking about different shit and they're all like this is right and this is wrong and this is like they're all over the place. World War, World Peace on the Instagram dietitian.
What war. So,
War.
oh my heavens. My thing is what I cringe at is what I eat in a day. Those
Oh,
literally it grinds it literally makes my blood boil. And
yeah,
here's right.
100%.
So they're not necessarily claiming that they're dietitians, but they're acting like like you just said.
Yeah,
Um, so they're going, if you've not seen any of these, they showcase themselves eating breakfast in the morning, an afternoon snack, lunch, dinner, and that's all good and fine. There's part of me that's excited that they're showing people that they're eating, and
of
that's
course.
fantastic to me because
Yeah,
so, I've had to re-educate people, so many women especially, on yes, you need to eat to gain muscle and to lose fat. Isn't that
yeah,
crazy?
yeah.
So I like that aspect that people are showing that they're eating, but it is so different for everybody. So when they look at those videos, they're like, "Oh, I must eat
Mhm.
that way to look like this person," and there are no disclaimers. There is nothing,
Right. Exactly.
and
Yeah.
that's where my heart is like, oh, it just,
Because someone somewhere is going to watch that and save it
yeah.
and be like, oh, this is my Bible now. Like, because that's
Just like
the
we
way
save
the internet
workouts.
works. Yeah, exactly.
We save
Hmm.
workouts to do them later on. People are
Hmm.
saving those to eat exactly what they're eating, and
Hmm.
they think that they're going to have results the same way that they do. And that's
Right.
diet nutrition is
Hmm.
assignments for a
Yeah,
reason.
exactly. I love that. Okay. So the next one I laughed at when I was writing it down because this was me 2 years ago. Um, First time home buyers.
Yeah.
So so I know I was a nightmare of a first time home buyer. Like
Yeah.
our realtor would never tell you that, I don't think, because she's just like the kindest, most lovely person on the planet.
Yeah.
But I was an absolute shit show. Like we bought our house without looking at it. And I had so many, I was like, so many questions. It was just like a total clusterfuck. So first time home buyers, what do we think?
You're gonna get me in trouble here. Um,
No,
well,
no, no, no.
honestly, I actually love working with first-time home buyers, and I'll tell you why. Because
Perfect.
my job is to literally, for them, my job is to educate and to like calm them down every single day. And so
Yeah.
it can get tedious, it really can, but I have to use my people skills on the next level. So it challenges me in a
Mm,
good way. And it also challenges me because they have questions that I haven't sometimes gone over in a really long time because I'm used
mm,
to dealing with people who are used to these transactions. So they don't ask me all these like teeny, like these more in-depth questions. So it
right.
actually makes me better as an agent. I know that sounds very, I feel like very
No, I
pageantry.
love, no, that's actually like, that makes a lot of sense to me.
It
Yeah.
actually makes me better as an agent because I have to look back and I have to be like, oh my gosh, how many days do they have on their home warranty? Or, how many
Yeah.
I have to go back and really look. And so that it strengthens me as an agent. So I will say peace. I do
I love
like,
that. I
I
love
like, but you're right. It can be a little bit of war. So I'm going to say
it's
a
a
little bit of,
journey.
I'm Switzerland right now. I'm neutral.
Perfect. Neutral is a place you can be. Um,
Okay.
perfect. Okay. And the last one I have for you is celebrities that are using Ozempic,
Oh my God.
which seems obvious, but I
War,
had to
war,
ask.
war, 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 war. Get that shit out of your system if you do not need it. Come on. And they're looking like skeletons. You can see it in their faces. There are certain, right? The certain celebrities that are doing it. It's like they have sunken in faces.
Yeah,
And I was just literally just talking to a friend whose husband is a diabetic and can't get
can't
Ozempic.
get it. Uh-huh.
There's
100%.
so many people. It is so flippin' awful.
I just read something the other day about like I think it was like Sharon Osbourne or something, and she had used some, Ozempic or like one of the
Yeah.
weight loss drugs, whatever that's on the market. And she said that she was saying this in reply to somebody saying that she looked too thin, and she agreed with them. She goes, "Yes, I do look too thin. Like I don't like what it's done to me." And I'm like, "Girl, like I don't really know what you thought. Like what did you think was going to happen here?" So, anyway,
Right. No,
I
thank you.
totally understand. I feel
Just
the
like the
exact
old fashioned way. That's the healthiest way to do it.
exactly,
Slow and steady
exactly.
wins the race, and you won't mess up your hormones. You won't mess up
Hmm.
your flipping entire endocrine system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Michy, you are just an absolute delight of a human being. And thank you so much for joining me on this journey and answering all my questions. You are just so multifaceted, which I love. And that again has been kind of like a commonality between all the women I interview is that they're all very like multi-passionate and so talented in each different industry that they're a part of, which is just such a treat on my end to be able to even interview people like that. So
Right on my
thank
end
you
too.
for being here. But before you hop off, before you leave us, tell everybody where they can find you, where like throw your shit out, like Instagram, website, all the things when you teach, whatever you want here. Now is the floor is yours for plugging your shit.
The shameless plug. Yeah.
Yes, we're
So
doing it.
I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I try the tiki talkies. I'm not good at like you, Maggie. I'm not good.
They're hard to make.
My God. And I can, my capacity is just two social medias at once, but that's it. But yeah, so my full name is Micheline Maloof. Micheline is my first name. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram. And yeah, that's, and then
What is
Sculpt Mode Bootcamp. Sculpt Mode Bootcamp is on, we're
beautiful?
on Instagram and Facebook as well, and
Yay.
you can follow us there. And we're also on YouTube. So actually, during COVID, we made a lot of YouTube videos, and
Oh
so we
my
saved
God.
them all on YouTube. So if you ever want to try an at-home workout, or you're traveling and you have a hotel gym, we have some workouts that you could do light weights with. But those were our COVID workouts, but we have like 60 plus videos that you
Oh my
can
God,
try.
amazing.
Yeah,
Okay, some free content for everybody. I
there you
love
go. There
it.
you
Oh,
go.
thank you so much, Michy. You are just the best. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for holding the space. You're
Of
amazing.
course. Oh, thank you so much.